Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Strong Network podcast with me, Dr. Carla Michelle, CEO of 𝗕𝗵𝗂 Coaching and Consulting Services Incorporated. I have the pleasure of starting this new series called You See the Glory, but Not the Story. And this first guest is a dear friend of mine who I believe is going to I don't just believe, I know for certain that she will bring stuff out of you that you don't expect, and that she'll touch you with words that will prick your heart to make you want to grow and to make you want to take on your story with braveness and clarity. So here we go, our first episode of You See the Story, but Not the Glory, where we can take back the layers of what it really takes to be a woman who is known as strong, strategic, talented, resilient, optimistic, necessary, so she can go global with her glory. And here we have Dr. Lorraine, the CEO of Acclivity. Yes, I said it. And tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, Dr. Carla, thank you for that warm welcome and introduction. I'm so happy to be a supporter, longtime fan of yours, and it was truly an
Mm,
honor to be invited to be your guest on the Strong Network. And so
yes,
I just
thank you.
love that your season is really looking behind the scenes, right? I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that part of what resonated with me about your theme for this season really had to do with, when you are that worker bee, or you are the CEO, or you are trying to do that, or you're an entrepreneur, or you're just juggling a lot, right? Family,
Right,
work, friends, all of that. How do you go from sort of making it to striving to thriving, right? So
right.
oftentimes we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And so at my company, Acclivity, I founded it mainly to help us, right?
Mm,
Just
okay.
us, and us can be a number of things, right? Us can be anyone who's in need of support at a particular time. And over
Mm,
my lifetime, I've experienced that, whether it was with family, whether it was my career, whether it was my education, whether it was found in my company, if it was different arenas. You and I are psychologists. I specialize in clinical psychology. I also am a certified coach like yourself. And so I always say that generally speaking, nobody's coming to the doctor because they're having a great day, right?
right.
So when you are the doctor,
Mm,
how do you navigate that space? And how
right.
do you share your stories of what it took to get you where you are, and be
Mhm.
vulnerable and transparent without coming across as showing too much or being weak? So, Acclivity essentially was born out of that. Um,
Mm,
and I often get asked about Acclivity. I was proud of you that you were able to pull it out. And it is actually a little fun fact. It is a play on words. So, my
mm,
last name is Hill.
mhm.
And several years ago, my company was Hill Behavioral Services, and over time, behavioral services really became synonymous with applied behavioral
Right.
analysis. So I was
Yes.
like, I don't want to be pigeonholed there. So a friend of mine and I just brainstormed, like, what would we do if we're changing it? And so we thought about doing wordplay, right? And
Mm,
so acclivity means upward slope. It also means hill.
mm,
And I really loved that
mm.
because at acclivity, we are
Yes.
always helping people ascend. For those of
Yeah.
you who are familiar with Greek mythology, and maybe some of you aren't, so this will be an opportunity for me to share a little bit with you, is that there was this person who was sort of damned by the gods, if you will, to roll a boulder up a hill every day, only
Oh,
for at the end of the day it to roll down. And his name was Sisyphus. So I like to think that at Acclivity, if we were there, we could have helped him not only roll it up the hill, but get it up and over, right?
okay.
So
Okay.
oftentimes we need a partner to help
Yes.
us accomplish these tasks, and that's what
Yes.
we do at Acclivity.
Nice. Okay. Help them get over to the other side. They ain't rolling back down anymore every day, right? Taking them to that next level. That's beautiful. No, I don't think I ever knew that. That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing. But tell me a little bit about your ambersands, because
Yes,
I
yes.
noticed. So what's that
Okay.
stand
So
for?
you win a prize, and so so I
I love
do
prices.
have the ampersands all over. And the reason that I surround myself with the ampersands is as a African American female growing up here in the US, oftentimes I and my peers were told how we either couldn't do something or we
Mm,
had to only
mm,
have we had to limit ourselves. And
right.
I just, it never really
Mm,
sat well with my spirit. Like, if we live in a place of abundance, why are we shut off, right? So, young, when I was younger, I didn't really have the words to articulate that. But what ended up happening was my philosophy on life has always been live in abundance. So there was this commercial that I saw many, many, many years ago for this restaurant, and I can't even remember what it is now, but there was a family in a car, and you're familiar with how this is, and I am too. The mom and dad are in the car, and the kids are in the back, and everybody wants something different for dinner, right? I want ribs, I want chicken, I want fish, I want pasta, right? So the parents are like, almost tearing their hair out because they're like, oh, we got to go to all these different
mm.
places to satisfy everybody. And this carnival master, like a ring master, comes twirling out and is like, what if you could go somewhere where they had everything you wanted in one place? And that place was called the Land of And I was, oh my God, it was the goofiest commercial ever. But I got it right on
I
a
love it. Yes.
I was like, I live in the land of and. And so I started collecting ampersands to symbolize living in the land of and. And over the years,
Mm,
because people know this about me,
mm.
now, girl, I have ampersands coming out my ears. So they
You
are
got to
all
pass
over
them
the
on.
place. Yes, yes. I had to make a wall collage out of some. Some are at my office. Some are in
Yeah.
every room in my home. And people
Mm,
just, they really love that story, right? And so part
mhm.
of the
Right.
philosophy about recognizing that we live in a state of abundance,
Yes.
something that I think we have to constantly remind ourselves of.
And that is so true. We live in a state of abundance. And you made me think about an actual state, right? Like California is a state. And no matter where we go, we're in that. Well, we can go beyond the state, but if you look at it just where we are, it's everywhere we are. We're in this state of abundance. It's not either or. It is, what do you want? What do
Right,
you want? And I
right,
think as business owners and leaders, that is what helps us grow and still be and do and accomplish what we we want to accomplish. Because if we just stayed in a land of not enough, or it'll never happen, or this happened to me so I need to stop here, it's like you're putting commas where there's periods, and we should always just keep going, right? And so what a great reminder of, and you can have this and that and that and that and that, and that just, I'm sure that's what's helped you when we talk about, the you see the glory, but you don't know the story. That and that keeps going. So tell us about, if you want to talk more about business, if it fits, but and how it fits. But tell us more about, we see your glory, your beautiful office, your other office, your successful business, the things that you're accomplishing, the things more to come because you're in that land of prosperity. Let's hear the you see the story, you see the glory, not the story. Let's hear some of your story. Like, what have you faced that you believe the listeners would appreciate to learn from? And let me just stop reading it and give it to you. What do you think people need to know about you?
So I really again think that this is so timely, right? You see the story
Mm,
and not the glory, particularly living in these times where, social media captures the brilliant moment. It's there's
right.
to me, and it's just my assessment, there's either the glory moment or the crash and burn moment, like the crash
Mm,
out, right? And very
right.
few times have I seen like, oh, this is just a regular day in the life of. And so for me, there have been highs and lows, right?
Yeah.
I mean, some serious lows. When I was working for a particular company, actually, this, now that I'm talking about it, I can think about how it happened to me twice in two different times, two
Mm,
different places at two very different, distinct times in my life. And how the first time I was mistreated by supervisors and didn't know how to seek help, right?
mm,
And it was really just a culture of, I would say nastiness there.
mm,
And, but,
truth.
it was a place where you had, as we know, good salary, great benefits. You could retire and live very well, right? And people were having health issues. And I thought, I don't, that could be me, right? We do know, particularly women and women of color, heart attack, stroke, all of that kind of stuff. And I was like, I don't want that to be my future. So I sought out support and was like, what do you, for advice or words of wisdom? And oftentimes I was met with, this is just how it is. It's okay, no matter where you go, no matter where you work. This is what the workplace is like. You're gonna have a great supervisor, rarely. Then you're gonna
Mhm.
have more supervisors who just are awful, and it just is the price you pay for being in the workplace. And I was like, I don't know if I believe that, but I was young, so I stuck it out, right?
Right.
Then something again in my spirit was like, girl, you better than this. You don't have to. And so
Mm,
I noticed that the longer I stayed there, the quieter that girl, you don't need to be here voice became, almost to the point where I couldn't hear it at all. And I was so beat down and so worn out, but I was making good money. I had my benefits, going on vacation, all this stuff, right? And then one day, somebody said something to me, and I don't remember what, but it pricked my soul. And I was like, I got to get out of here. If I don't
mm.
get out of here, I am going to die here. Now,
Ooh.
that may have been a physical death, but it was certainly, I was on the path to a psychological death, right?
Mm, mm,
And I said, I don't need anybody to tell me what to do. I just need to get out. And so I quietly set out my exit plan. And then when it was time for me to go, I told my mom, I was like, I'm going to leave. And she's like, no, you can't. Oh my God, you got to stay. You got a good job. What about those benefits? And what are you
Right.
going to do? You know, and that's sometimes how parents want to protect you, right? They don't want you to lose what you have. But something
Mm-hmm.
in me was like, let it go because I got something better for you.
Mm.
So I quietly started letting people know that I was leaving, and to a person, girl, don't leave your good job. You need to stay.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, we've all heard that. And I think that in those times, what happens is your confidence can be totally like shaken. You're like, wait, I think I'm moving in the right direction, but all of these external voices are telling you something different. So a
Mhm.
lesson from that is go inward and
Yeah.
see what's right for you. Because
Mm.
what's right for you may not be right for someone else. You may or may not have a trusted advisor that you could bounce something off of, but frankly, we know what it is that we need. And there's a body of research that not everybody knows about, and you don't have to be a scholar to tap into it. But I think it's important to point it out because it's really rooted in women's work, and it's called Women's Ways of Knowing. And so
Mm.
while you're not going to be getting some, you know, mega data analysis or something like that, which I'm not poo-pooing because, you know, you and I have PhDs, so we love research. But these are stories, right? Cultural stories where you have women who just have this sense of what should happen. Now,
Right.
society over time has, you know, poo-pooed it, particularly patriarchal societies that are like, what is this? You know, like women's intuition. Yeah, it is. And there's value in that. The research also demonstrates that when women are involved in business, then those business year over year, after quarter, do better than when there's no women at the C-suite level. So that was just one instance of when I was really struggling, didn't have a lot of support on how to pivot, but I got out. And getting out was not easy, but I did have
Mhm.
a plan. And my plan was, okay, I'm gonna get out. Whatever money I have in my retirement, I'll just have to live off of that until I figure it out
Mm.
because I live
Right.
in a land of abundance and another opportunity is going to come. And so I, Carla, Dr. Carla, I lived off that retirement, and this is a testimony. I will say it, and I have said it again a million
Tell
times.
us.
I had $50 left in my account,
Oof.
and I got tapped for a C-suite position at that time, which was like almost 20 years ago, making 90K.
Oof. It was
And
like,
right, I was like, where's that contract? Let me sign it now.
God has heard my prayer. No, I love it. Right?
And so that happened, right? I stepped out
Yeah.
on faith, and I remember someone who I used to work for, a man who I used to work for who was just awesome. And he wanted me to work on a project with him, and I was so beat down and scared and nervous, like, no, because this is gonna be, I'm gonna be left out there swinging in the wind. And he pulled me to the back office and he said, look, this is a great opportunity for you. He was like, I want you to step out there. He was like, you can fly, and if you fall, I will catch you. And I was
Mm.
like, that's what I like men to say to me. Like,
Tell
yeah.
me more, please.
I was like, okay, I received that message in the package that it came in. And so,
Love
he
it. I
was
love
married,
it.
I knew his wife and all that stuff,
But
but it
still, right. He
was
needed it.
right. It was a man who I trusted, and that voice came through in a way that penetrated me so that I could
Mm,
move forward because I was essentially paralyzed. So
mm,
that was a tough time for me. And even though I got
right.
that contract, worked with that, that organization, I don't want to make it seem like, oh, when I signed on the dotted line, everything was great. Remember, I had a little bit of money in my account and I was drumming my fingers waiting for that check to hit so that I could pay the rest of my bills and still go in
Right.
not looking like I was desperate, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So that was a rough time for me. Pivoting then
And
was very rough.
what was your most like mental hardship when, I mean, because yes, you're at $50. How did you keep going? Because there's fear involved, right? They're second guessing possibly your decision, like, or was there a time you're like, I just need to go get a job doing da 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 and not waiting for the thing that I really see for my future? How was that for you mentally?
Well, it's so funny that you asked that because I've been asked that before. And I think that this is where I'll just speak from my own experience. This is where Black women thrive. We are
Hmm.
resilient, and when we put our mind to
Hmm.
something, that's it, right? So my
Yeah.
mind was, I'm quitting this job because I know something else is out there. What's out there? I don't know, but I'm open to it. And I feel like I have enough discernment and information to know this, I need to go this way and not that way, right? And part of that, again, goes back to the women's way of knowing when you can quiet those external voices and just listen, right? Be still and know that I am. And in those
Mm.
moments of being still and knowing that I am
Mhm.
means I am here to provide for you. I am here to
Hey.
take you. I am here to fulfill whatever you need. $50
Hmm.
is what's there now, but it wasn't that before, and it can get back to that
Yes.
and it can exceed that. Just be
Hmm.
still and then move.
That's good. And even have that confidence in the stillness. Because, if we talk about women, Black women, men, whoever's listening, it's that still part, be still, like, oh gosh, it's that still, and even stilling your mind,
Right.
not just your body and the actions you take, but still in your mind, because you could be still, you could be under the covers, head covered by all the blankets in the house and the blinds drawn, and your mind is still is not
Going.
still.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's going.
and to know that, because clients, and I'm sure you've worked with them as well. Some of them don't have that resiliency.
Right.
They have fear.
Right. Right.
And do
So
you have anything that you go ahead? You're about to touch on
so
it.
what I was going to say, and I apologize for stepping on you,
Okay.
is everybody has resiliency.
There you go. Tell us.
It is that fear can override it. And so
Mm,
the muscle needs to be worked more, right?
work, work.
And so what I usually try to assist my clients with is let's work on that muscle when we're not desperate. Right?
That part, right? Don't when you
Because
actually need it, right?
when right, when you because hey, we all have heard the term, um about like if there's something that is needed in the moment, you can make a snap decision, right? But how
Hmm.
about we
Hmm.
start making some decisions and planning some strategies in advance? Sure,
Right,
there are things that we will not that we can't necessarily plan for. But I want to
right, right,
know
right,
that what happens, you can be resilient, right?
right,
We
right.
we know people who've had catastrophic illnesses. We know people, recently in California, we had the fires, right? You were evacuating. But
Hmm.
guess what? that there's still rebuilding that happens, right? So as long as you
Right.
have breath in your body, you are resilient. There's some things that we're not going to escape. Of course, I get that. But for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
most part, we need to work on that muscle of strategy, resilience. I got it. Who's in my network when I don't have it? Is it a day that I do need to just get on that couch and pull the covers over my head and,
Right.
you know, suck my thumb or whatever, right?
Be in the moment. Just be in
Go
the
with it.
moment.
Go with it. You and I are psychologists. What we're not gonna do is poo-poo emotions and
Right.
honoring them, right?
Right. Right.
We need to go through every moment is not a happy one, right? We're
Right.
talking
Life.
about life behind the scenes, what, okay, today's a glorious day, but guess what? Yesterday wasn't. So how do we deal with that? We deal with
Mm.
it by, in the times that we can be thoughtful and strategic, is just brainstorming some stuff.
Right. I love that. Because so you touched on a couple of things. Like one of those is, how we're socialized. When I hear your story, we're socialized to get a job, keep a job, no matter what, by our parents or those before us. I think it's definitely changed now. People are quitting their jobs every 1 to 2 years. Some people have two jobs at the same, two offers, and they take both and they go and say, yeah, I'm not going to do this one. So it's totally, totally different. But there was a time where, parents would say, you want to leave? Why do you want to leave? I'll never forget the time when my dad finally retired. And I think they gave him a gold pin for like
Right.
all these years. And he's like, it was like a little pen, not like a writing pen. It was a little pen. And
That you're
and
gonna wear even though you're not working there no more, right?
right,
Okay.
right, right, right. And the things he said, I will not repeat right now about that pen. But that's the thing, and you pushed against the norm of listening to yourself 20 years ago. That wasn't what we were doing 20 as much as 20 years ago.
No.
You also had to stand up for yourself and speak up for yourself for what you wanted when it came to those who are like, you're crazy. You had a good job. You had insurance.
Right.
You had a
Now
401k.
we want some benefits, right?
Yeah, well, who don't want some benefits? But you still had to stand, and you had to believe that something else was going to come in that state of abundance, right? And that takes that mindset, and that is resilience, but also the optimistic side of
Mhm.
where I'm going is going to be better than where I was, especially because of the way I felt and the way
Mhm.
I felt by being there. And many of us feel like because of the check, we have to stay. Because, some of us will stay because of the check. And then is the check worth it? I have to
Right.
really ask in the long run. And then what you even pointed out is without resiliency, it is that thing you really find out how strong you are on the other side.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Um, Wow. So what is there like that's 20 years ago. Is there anything recent that you had to like a short like, hey, let me tell you where I am now. I'm a business owner. My account was like whata. It was like utta. Whatever you can share that's recent for us.
Sure. So, hey, life is great. We've got employees, we're growing the business.
Mm,
We're the company that remember all of these reasons why people shouldn't leave their jobs. So guess what? At Acclivity, we offer benefits. We have 401k, all of that. Because I was like, I don't want
beautiful.
anybody to have to worry, right? We have
Hmm.
access to financial advisors, etc. So,
Beautiful.
how about remember, I was just talking about there are things that happen that you can't plan for. Now, while we're a couple of
Mm,
years away from it, the pandemic hit my company
mm.
hard
Yeah, still,
because
yeah.
we are, behavioral health based, right? So we don't do therapy at our company. We specialize in testing and assessment, and we have a number of contracts with different organizations. And because of the pandemic, everything was shut down. So we weren't working. And at my company, it's that old adage about, we eat what we kill. So if we ain't out hunting, we ain't killing and
That's
we ain't
it.
eating.
We skinny lions.
Right. We real skinny and we ain't gonna eat each other, but we looking at each other, right? It's like,
That's like called layoffs.
right. So
Won't go.
right here I have my team who I've recruited hot and heavy.
Yeah.
Everybody's making good money, and then boop, everything is shut down,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So the good thing about it was that I did have some money in the business account, so I was able to pay
good.
staff. I went without, which is what you do when
Yeah.
you're the owner of the company. Not all CEOs do that, but that's a whole nother story.
Another
And
podcast.
yeah, totally. But what ended up happening was I was like, you know what? This is a thing. I don't have any reference for it, but I know that
Mm,
my steps are ordered. I know that I'm where I'm supposed to be, whatever's supposed to happen to me, my company, and my
good.
staff, I will be okay, right? And so, sure, we were wringing our hands around things, but it was really around the impact around health, right? Like how many people are going to pass, do
Mm,
I as the business owner, because we are behavioral health, do I need to pivot my staff into doing mental health services around, therapy, grief sessions, anxiety,
right.
what do I need to do? So typically when stuff goes sideways and it's something that I haven't planned for, who could plan for a 100-year pandemic, then I go into strategy crisis management mode. And I'm real good at that. Like, I'm like, oh,
Mm,
let me sit down and figure this out. What are some resources? Where can mama get some money
I
from?
like that.
Um,
Mm. No,
so
I'm
that
all like, right.
we can keep these doors open. And, everybody got real grown up commitments and bills to pay.
Mm,
So, what do I need to do? And so,
right.
that was where I was. So, my concern was not so much that I was worried that I was going to have to lay off anybody, or because we're pretty solid, right? I figured we wouldn't exhaust all of the money, and if need be, I was like, I'll just get a business loan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Business is solid.
They
I
were there. Hmm.
credit, I'll just get a business loan. And then, of course, what ended up happening was, the feds ended up opening up the purses, and we got a couple of those business loans.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then
Good
I
to
was
know.
like, okay, it's all good. So,
Right.
that is something that, no, I don't know if anybody could have been prepared for that. So
No,
that's an example
right.
of,
Right. Right.
recently where it was like, oh my goodness, what do we do here? And we did it, and we ended up being better than okay, if I may say so.
I love that. No, and that's real. You said something. I'm looking at my notes here, and I love for the listeners to take this away as well, because you think this way. There's always a solution. Maybe you didn't say it that way, but you said, I'm going to sit down and think about how this is going to work. And when
Mhm.
it comes to, yeah, everything looks great, business is great, but when it's not that it's not great, but when it's going through a hurdle or a bump, sit down. A lot of us run from it, but you're showing us don't run from it, face it, because
Right,
there's a solution within you.
right.
There's a solution if you give it time. And I think that's such a biggest thing to go with resilience is to understand solution and strategy. It has to be. I think that's why I came up with strong, like strategic, talent, resilient, optimistic, and
Hmm.
global, because
Absolutely.
that is the way that I am here now is having thinking about a strategy. How can you use your talent? Your talent is, oh, I'm gonna sit down and make this thing work or figure it out. And being optimistic and resilient and knowing that what you're doing is so necessary in this world. And so I'm really loving that. As we come to a close, what do you want the I have a couple of questions, listeners to take away? Two, what do you want the listeners to know about you and how they can reach you? And if you have any resources or anything that, you want to offer them, and just let them know where you are. So closing statement, or either way you want to do it, and there you go.
Well, thank you again, Dr. Carla. This
Oh,
I feel like this has been such a rich discussion and chat with you. And
very
I
much.
think, there's a takeaway that, that you're gonna leave the listeners with that we talked about earlier. But
Mm,
as I've had some time to kind of think about this, I think that one of the things that I really hope that I've impressed upon you is that we are in abundance. You have opportunities. You don't have to just survive, you can thrive, right? Those things go
right.
together. And because you're in a place of abundance, in a state of abundance, you don't have to do it alone. You don't. There are times when you need to get alone and think, but you don't have to do it alone.
Say that.
So check in with your network, with your resources. I love that people are really embracing having coaches. Dr. Carla
Mhm.
is a resource. I'm a resource. We have
Right.
networks. And so that's sort of what I would say about a takeaway is really sort of the mindset.
Good. Good. And don't do it alone. But
No,
there's times you need to be alone,
that's right.
but you ain't got to do it alone.
That's right.
Wherever you are, even if you're not a business owner, wherever you are in your life, it's like, and it's so one, we want to do that silo, get on that island by ourselves. And I think it's dangerous to be alone too long. So I,
Oh,
I love that you're leaving that as the key takeaway. And so where can we find you? What's your website?
yes. So thank you for that. Also, you can find me on Instagram at, um, oh, sorry, no, that I didn't mean to say Instagram. My team is going to kill me. Instagram is where I go to
Don't
put,
kill her team.
yikes. You can find me on X. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on YouTube, and I have a podcast. So that is Dr. Loren M. Hill on LinkedIn. It is also Dr. Loren M. Hill. You can Google me. Don't forget the M is my middle initial. And
Okay.
my podcast, we're actually doing a bit of a refresh, and we're
Mhm.
renaming it, so that will be unveiled
Okay.
later this month. But it
Nice.
goes back to that strategy. So if you want to find me, just Google me, Dr. Loren M. Hill, and you'll find me in a number of places.
Awesome. And it also will be on the show notes here. As we have this recording, it'll also be there. Anything else that I can share with you that Dr. Lauren has for you will be included. And oh man, so thank you. And thank everyone for listening. And those that this is the story, you see that you're hearing the story even past the glory right now. And I just switched up the title and kind of in a weird way, but it is something that you shared your glory with us and you told us your story. I so appreciate it, and I do hope that all our listeners share this and help the other women and men out there who need some encouragement, because that's what you did for us today. You helped us go another day to be a little bit stronger here on the Strong Network podcast. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Carla.
I'll see you soon. Take care.